Hi, it's Lee and welcome to the Tesla Economist. The compact or Gen 3 vehicle was going to debut at the new Giga Mexico factory, but it's sounding like there'll be delays. I think most of us would have expected to have broken ground by now when we were initially told about the new factory. We're hearing that suppliers have informed various media outlets that Tesla has told suppliers to wait. Some sources are saying that production won't start until more like 2026 or 2027, when most of us expected it to be sometime next year that we would actually see Gen 3, Robotaxi, Model 2, compacts, $25,000 vehicles, or whatever you want to call them, come off this production line. This is obviously a huge delay, perhaps 3 years. Although these sources are anonymous and perhaps not overly solid with their facts or data, it is hard to really go by any of this as concrete evidence as to what is actually happening. But perhaps things are not looking good in Mexico for Tesla. Now, if I was Tesla, by this stage, I would have had several locations that I was already interested in, or even further than that if necessary would be ready to go in a fairly short time, most likely even in parallel to Mexico. As in, I wouldn't have all my eggs in the one basket, the eggs being the entire future growth of EV production, and the basket being Giga Mexico. Tesla is in a big race to transition the world to sustainable energy, and we've seen in the past how they do their best as to not waste any time as possible. What was the point of Giga Mexico in the first place? Well, it would have been a location that Tesla would have been able to make vehicles at a lower cost when compared to the US. Much like many other auto companies also manufacturing their vehicles in Mexico due to the lower cost of labor and capital, and thus saving money. Of course, for Tesla, the fact that cars were being built in North America, it also meant that it qualified for the tax credits of $7,500 per vehicle. Now, Tesla likely want to hit this $25,000 Gen 3 price point, and Elon thinks they can lower the cost of production by half of the Model 3 with these processes, and likely with lower costs in Mexico. Then, when you also factor in the $7,500 tax credit, and potentially the cells and batteries also being made in North America, and thus saving another $1,500 to $2,000 per vehicle in subsidies for those, this vehicle ends up becoming very low cost, with lots of savings and likely still a huge profit margin, yet massive demand due to such a low price, and of course it being a Tesla that will come equipped with all the expected Tesla technology. On top of that, we were told that Gen 3 can use a range of different cells and batteries, which translated means it doesn't require 4680 cells, which is good because we don't know when they will ramp to high enough quantities for the massive growth we're promised. However, CATL have proven they can ramp LFP cells for Tesla, which means we don't need to depend on 4680 cells. So this is a real shame if Tesla have to delay Mexico for a really long time. I'm sure that someone this time will ask about progress on Mexico in an earnings call, hopefully, although I also thought someone would ask last earnings call too. I can't believe the questions that don't get asked when people have the opportunity. But I think Elon will have to address this on the earnings call, or someone will actually ask as to the status of Mexico and what are the contingencies, or where will Gen 3 first be built. The point is, though, that Tesla will likely have to announce a new factory soon. If Tesla want to keep growing and believe in FSD and robotaxis, then Tesla need to produce more EVs, and this needs to be done by offering a model that is lower cost and thus has more demand, i.e. the compact. Especially when Elon says things like FSD would be solved this year or next. If that is true, then we might have thought that we'd see more efforts in having robotaxi production at the ready. If this vehicle won't be manufactured in Mexico, then where is it likely to be built? I think most likely either Texas or Shanghai on the existing sites. Texas, because obviously Tesla is already established there and has plenty of land for expansion. On top of that, as it's made in the US, it will receive the $7,500 tax credit, or what will then be a rebate. And likely further subsidies of around $1,500 for the batteries and cells too. So instantly a $9,000 saving per vehicle if produced in Texas. And we've already heard rumours of CATL and Tesla partnering up to make an LFP factory in Texas with 100 gigawatt hour a year capacity. I don't know how much further Tesla would save on building in Mexico per vehicle, but probably at least a few $1,000s. Although remember, the parallel production line will be more automated, Due to the unboxed manufacturing process, it means that robots can access parts of the car at different angles that before required humans. Remember though that compacts are not a big seller in the US and are far more popular in Europe and China. So there is the chance that even if Tesla did produce the compact for the North American market, then it might struggle to sell the 2 million a year alleged capacity of that factory for that market. And if exported, then the rebates would not apply anyway. I mean, if Tesla have gotten the costs of production to under $20,000, though like Elon claims, and then selling the vehicle for $30,000, which comes to $22,500 after tax credit, perhaps that would be enough to incentivize new car buyers to buy a compact electric car. This would be under the $25,000 price point even. But who knows? I would have thought the Model 3 would have a huge backorder at its current price too. And Elon has actually been quite coy in regards to this new vehicle. And of course, no one ever bothers asking him directly, despite the numerous chances they get, which might be an indication of how the market views the company. Not nearly enough is asked about the Gen 3 vehicle. Will it be a compact? Will it be sold in the US? For all we know, Mexico could have just been the export hub. In fact, no one's actually even asked if the Gen 3 vehicle will even be sold to the public. Or will it just be a robotaxi? Elon even saying that it wouldn't even come with a steering wheel. So little is asked about these cars, but I would say that has a lot to do with how far Tesla are with FSD. Which means it could thus make sense to make this vehicle in Shanghai. Tesla has the land available in Shanghai. Tesla would probably aim to construct the factory in something ridiculous like 7 to 8 months. Nowhere else in the world would be as good at manufacturing EVs as China, especially not Mexico, which would also save costs. In some ways, to start the new parallel production line, it would be best trialling it first in China, the nation that has the most manufacturing prowess, and have proven themselves as the best nation in manufacturing EVs also. If Tesla can get all the systems and processes sorted for their Gen 3 production in Shanghai first, and learn there, then that will likely be a great advantage, especially likely compared to Mexico. I'm not saying that Shanghai is necessarily better, they both have their advantages and disadvantages, but if Gen 3 does start in Shanghai, then it could definitely be successful. Compacts are much bigger sellers in Asia, it's also easier to ship to Europe from Shanghai compared to Mexico, and compacts are the most popular selling vehicles there, because the roads are narrower and the gas prices are higher. Now, let's not also forget one major contributing factor. What is the main constraint for EV production? Cells and batteries. And what have CATL recently done? Built an enormous cell and battery factory with about 80 gigawatt hour capacity right next door to Giga Shanghai. Is it possible that perhaps this factory will be used for the Gen 3 vehicle batteries? If this is the case, then it is likely a lot easier for Tesla to get started in China. Okay, there are some theories floating around that the Chinese government are preventing Tesla from expanding any further and competing with the Chinese EV makers. I'm not sure how true that is, but the fact the batteries are coming from a Chinese manufacturer and they're going to be exporting a lot of these vehicles is likely going to benefit the Chinese economy more than anything, not to mention all the additional local employment. Anyway, if Tesla announced that they are building the first Gen 3 factory in Shanghai, then I have no problem with that. I just want them to get on with it, really. It's all taken a really long time and been 4 years since Tesla launched their latest model, the Model Y. And we finally have the Cybertruck launching soon. But to get the 50% growth numbers again, we need to see the Gen 3 ramping. Hopefully, something is announced soon. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.